Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Coriander, we are about to talk Candyman.
Yeah.
And, we did our live reaction coming right out after seeing it. And, we didn't want to talk about any spoilers. We didn't want to give anything away. So, what we're going to do here is we are going to be doing a spoiler review and discussion. So, this would be pretty interesting. I'm really excited. So much to talk about. I'm sure we'll be doing other videos on this because there's so much to unpack. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
All
I
right.
would.
Okay. What was that?
No, I'm just saying yes.
Okay. All right. So for you guys watching, sit back and relax. You know what time. All right. Okay. And yes, we will not be saying his name. we got we got my man Eric in the chat saying, "Hey, you're looking for Candyman night." We found him, man. We found him. Okay,
Yeah.
Coriander. Let's start this thing off. There's so much to talk about with this movie, but what I figured we'd do is kind of go through some of the story and some of the high points of what we found. I thought the movie it started out really nice. Anyone who's heard anything about this movie, you've probably heard about how the music just comes on in, and the opening of the movie, it really is reminiscent of the original. We also get a backstory that involves Coleman Domingo's character of William Burke as a child, and he is he is haunted by the stories that he knows of Candyman. And in this iteration, it was a man named Sherman Fields. And so we see that really creepy scene with Sherman Fields that comes out of the wall, and young William is scared and so forth. So the movie starts off fantastic. In other words, what I'm saying. What did you think personally of the opening? How it started?
I thought it was great. And just like with the original, how, it opened to when you're looking onto like the highway and onto the city. I liked how you had like the reverse look. So I
Yes.
thought that was really cool. And yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, it takes you back to 1977 when, like you said, that guy was a kid and he
Hmm.
met, Sherman, who ended up becoming the Candyman, of that time.
Hmm.
Because yeah, I mean, he was innocent, and yeah, what
Right.
happened to him is tragic, and yeah,
Yeah.
it starts off great.
Absolutely. And I thought that what was also very cool about that scene, as well as other parts of the movie, and many people know about this if you've seen the trailers or commercials, but they were using the puppetry to show a
Yeah, the
lot of what was
shadow
going
puppets.
on. And
Yeah,
not only was it creepy, but it was very artistic
I
and
liked it.
something, yeah, it
Yeah,
was something different. So, when they were showing what happened to Sherman, you didn't see it. You saw the puppetry, and you also had the audio. So it was a very different type of experience. And
yeah,
again,
it was cool.
so yeah, very much so. And it was very, obviously very lucky to be able to see this in the theater, because you get that experience with the surround sound and the screen and so forth. So I thought it was
Yeah.
fantastic starting off. And
Mhm.
also in the chat, Paul was saying something that I thought about too. He says, I thought our film was on backwards at the start. And I did too, man,
He said the
because
same thing. Yeah.
yeah, when the Universal logo came on and it was back, and by the way, again, this is all spoilers, guys. I think I already said that, but all spoilers. But the Universal logo came on and it was backwards, and then I was thinking, okay, well, maybe that's, I don't know. And then you saw some other things come on backwards, and I don't know. By that point, I was like, oh, do I have to get out of my seat and let these guys know that the film is backwards? Because I didn't want to, have anything ruined for me, backwards where you couldn't see it the right way. But
Yeah.
it was a stylistic choice. It was very cool, man. It really
Mm.
was. Paul was saying the new Candyman was just as creepy as Tony Todd, in my opinion. Now, they definitely did a great job with
Yeah,
Sherman.
I love how he like rose up and floated when he moved. I mean, that was
Yes.
creepy. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I thought it was just fantastic stuff in it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but we we get into present day, and let's start talking about that. And we meet Anthony McCoy, who's the lead in this story, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. Um, and he's an artist, and he's a struggling artist, and he's trying to just make ends meet. He has his girlfriend that he lives with, played by Teyona Paris, um, and she works in the art world as well. And they seem to have a really cool relationship, very believable. What did you think
Yeah.
about those two once we met them?
I liked these two. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she was yet working in an art museum, and like you said, he was a struggling artist, but oof, if they didn't have dinner with her brother and his boyfriend, and
Mm-hmm.
if he didn't tell him that tale of, what happened in Cabrini Green, and it wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have piqued his interest. And yeah, because once, like I said, this reminds me of Freddie, because people forgot about Freddie, just like people forgot about Candyman.
Right.
And this just, yeah, it brought it back, and it brought it back quick and hard, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And of course, that was one thing that was very creepy about the original. Is this is an urban legend, a myth, and it's
Yeah.
told, and that's what keeps the story alive, which in essence
Mhm.
keeps Candyman alive. Candyman being Daniel Robitaille, played by the great Tony Todd. And
Yep.
so the story is told, and you're already getting creepy vibes. This movie definitely had a lot of psychological things going on, and very creepy in the tone. The
Yeah.
cinematography was amazing. But anyways, like you were saying, the story was being told by Brianna's brother, Troy.
Hmm.
By the
Yep.
way, played by Nathan Stewart Jarrett, who I got to admit, man, he was great in this movie. He was very,
Yeah.
very
He
charismatic.
was funny.
He was
Yeah. He
funny.
brought, yep,
Yeah, he brought the levity to the story, which I thought it
he did.
needed to balance it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Um, but he introduces the story of Candyman to Anthony and Brianna, and the usual thing happens. It's kind of like, okay, well, is this real? People
Hmm.
sometimes, come on, man, and
The
the
only
truth of.
thing,
Go ahead.
yeah, can I just say the only thing I
Yeah.
didn't like with this story was how he talked about how Helen was bringing the baby into the fire and not rescuing the baby and pulling him out of the fire.
Well,
That part I was like, come on.
you know why
We
that
know
is,
what really
though.
happened. What?
Well, exactly. Well, when you have a myth and when you have a
Well,
legend
yeah.
that's told, one person tells two
To the
people
next.
and two
Yeah, and it
people tell 20,
changes.
and it's a totally
Yeah.
different story, and then the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
20 or 30 it's different. So in the story that he heard, Helen was villainous,
Yeah,
whereas
she
we know the truth is that she
mm,
actually saved the baby. But also near the end of the movie,
yeah.
we get a sense of maybe why the story changed to that. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But anyways, Anthony, he starts to get very, very wrapped up in the story. He starts to get intrigued by it. And very similar to Helen in the first movie, he starts to investigate it. Now, what were you thinking
Yeah.
of these things that were going on?
I thought it was pretty cool because he was going into
Hmm.
like abandoned parts, of Cabrini Green, and
Right.
yeah, taking pictures, and
Hmm.
it was creepy,
I
And then
agree.
of course he met that friggin' guy who really got him going into Candyman. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. He comes into contact with, again, Coleman Domingo is such a
yeah.
great actor. I cannot stress that enough. He had fantastic scenes, and he was basically the historian. He was the exposition for
Mhm.
the movie, and he was
Yeah.
telling the story of Candyman. And like he said, it happened to I think he said William Bell in the 20s during the riots.
Yep.
It happened to someone else. He said, but Candyman for me was a guy named Sherman Fields, and he told that story that we had seen in the beginning of the movie. And
Yep.
needless to say, Sherman was beaten to death by cops. And for
Yep.
William, that was a very traumatic thing in his life, and it obviously stayed with him into his adult years. But
Mhm.
he's telling the story to Anthony to kind of further along Anthony's knowledge of Candyman, and basically to kind of make this brief as we go through the story, Anthony is learning about Candyman and he's utilizing the story in his art. He starts
Yeah.
um, basically using it as inspiration in his art because he's been stuck in his art and he's been
Mhm.
trying to get out of that and become more successful. You see the scenes where he was at the art show and you've got people that are checking out his stuff and he's trying to explain to them, what it's all about and so forth. What did you think about at this point in the story, what's happening to Anthony and how he's basically passing on
He was
the
inspired.
message? Yes.
Yeah, this like obviously, I mean, come on, he's part of this anthology, he's part of this story of Candyman,
Hmm.
and because he was that baby who was in that fire. So, I mean, once he got in touch with it, that was it. That's all it took. And
Yeah.
yeah,
But of course, we don't find that out yet until maybe the
right,
last third of the movie, which
right.
I think
But
was
the
interesting.
inspiration he got from it was
Yes.
crazy
Yeah.
because he went from painting pretty butterflies to what you saw really, really kind of scary pictures of these
Yeah.
former Candymans. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
was
he,
great.
he, he had a picture of Daniel Robitaille and also of Sherman
Hmm.
Fields and so forth. But let's talk about some of the big moments of the story too, and then I'll get to the guys in the chat. You had that scene where at the art show you had that one guy that was a real big jerk towards him,
Yeah.
and you could tell that Anthony was really upset about it and also probably
Mm.
embarrassed and so forth. But Anthony's art piece that he had was this mirror, and you would
Mhm.
open up the mirror and look in, and you would see a couple of these drawings that you just talked about that were inspired by this legend. And he called the piece Say My Name. And he actually, the little information on the piece talked about the Candyman legend, and it said,
Yep.
say the name 5 times in the
But
mirror
yeah.
to summon him. And so of course, at the end of the art show, when everyone leaves, the guy that was being an asshole to Anthony was there with his girlfriend. And of course, very similar to the original movie, she says, well, let's say the name. So, of course, they
Yeah.
sit there and they say it 5 times. And then that was really,
Instant.
go ahead.
I mean, instantly after she said it the fifth time, her
Hmm.
throat was slit.
Yeah. And the
So
thing of it
yeah.
is, in this movie,
And her
Candy,
boyfriend. I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but he was even like, "Is this real?" You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
kind of stupid.
That's
He needed to
crazy shit.
go. But in this movie, what was cool is that the kills were happening with Candyman in the reflection of the mirror. So it looked
Yeah.
really cool, as far as
Yep.
just, how they were happening. Let me just catch up to the chat here, too. These guys are working hard. Let's see. Eric was saying, no worries on spoilers. They never affect me with movies. I hear you, man.
Okay.
Eric saying, side note, you're at 600. I called it last night during the Dark
Nice.
Fate talk. Congratulations, you two and Killian. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate that. Um,
Right?
and we couldn't have done it
Yeah.
without all the support
You
from all
guys.
you guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
man.
Thank you so much. Paul was saying, loved how they told the story through the paper shadow puppets.
Yeah, the
Me
puppet
too.
shadows were awesome. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed those too. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul was saying, Coriander, I do actually think that that was a plot hole, but I can see where you are coming from, Night, where the story had changed. Which part was that? Because I waited before getting back to you guys. Uh, let me know which part you're talking about, Paul. Strange Monkey's in the chat too. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey.
Uh, and Paul saying loved Coleman Domingo in this movie. I love him in Fear the Walking Dead as well. Yeah, he was, for me anyways, the bright spot, the part that I love the most about Fear the Walking Dead. Patrick saying, I was digging the straight out of the theater reactions. Can we see more of that in the future? Hey man, if
If
people do the
COVID's
right thing,
okay,
well, yeah, that's what I was
right?
gonna say. If people are doing the right thing and taking precautions, because I'll be honest with you, we were really nervous to do that, but I'm glad we did, and it worked out good. So yeah, hopefully we can do more of that. Paul saying, I want his Say My Name piece he has in the gallery in my own house. It was awesome. It was
You're
awesome, wasn't it?
brave.
But I don't know if I want that
Yeah,
though.
you're brave,
It
right?
was cool though.
Yeah.
Biffers in the chat saying, hey, what's up, man? Paul was saying the part where he says she took Candyman the baby, but she actually went to rescue him.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I it could have been, because that's what we're going to get into as well. I don't want to jump around too much, but we are going to get into pacing, and we do know that there was reshoots and stuff like that. And I do think there were some things that were cut out. There were some things in the trailer that we didn't see in the movie. So I think that it's possible that that's true, Paul. The way I took it, though, was just like with any myth or any legend, from person to person, it always changes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes the people that are good become evil, and vice versa, or in between. So it could be either way, I think. Strange Monkey saying, I do believe the ending was a little rushed. It left me wanting more. It definitely left me wanting more. There's
I
no
think
doubt
we'll be
about that.
getting more. It's almost like they're opening a new door to, the new Candyman.
I
So
agree.
yeah,
This
yeah.
definitely has ambitions to do more. The mythology was opened up with this, and again, I want to say, and we're all over
Definitely.
the place, but I do want to say this again because we've had people that I've seen in different posts, and even in some of our comments, say that this is a remake. It's not a remake. It's not a remake. You
It's
might
yeah,
you might be able to define it as maybe like a soft reboot, maybe because in the sense that it's been so long since the last sequel. But even that, I don't know if I'd want to say that. I really do think it's a sequel, and the
it's
whole
its own
movie,
thing.
yeah, and the
That's what I think. Yeah.
and the whole movie is a direct connection to Candyman 1992.
Hmm.
I mean, it's definitely a connection
Oh
to that.
yeah.
It's following that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's definitely
I
not a
mean, like you
reboot.
said, he Anthony even gets notes that Helen took when she was
Yes,
investigating for her, final paper. So
absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and you did get, and of course we're all on spoilers, but yeah, that was the part with Virginia Madsen. Unfortunately, it was
yeah. The
only
reference.
audio, but
Yep.
but she did have some audio that she said in the movie, and he was using that as information. And he's
Yeah,
basically being taken over by this legend of
yeah.
or this myth of Candyman, and we're just seeing him just go down the rabbit hole. Um,
Yeah. And
Great
even
imagery.
before, like before he got deep into this, like when he was first taking those pictures, he got stung by that bee. And
Hmm.
that was almost a sign to right there,
Yeah.
stay away. But
Well,
yeah,
and the thing of it too is that when he got stung by the bee, all of a sudden there were these aspects of body horror that came into play because his hand started to get it just decayed and up through his
yeah,
arms and so forth. So it
yeah,
was
man.
it was really it was some
That
good
part when his
gore stuff in it.
fingernail, yeah.
Yes,
That reminded me of the fly when he
of
was
the
peeling
fly.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
some crazy stuff. Um,
Yeah.
But one of the other kills I thought was really cool is with the art lady who was kind of
Yeah.
one at first she
She was a
wasn't
bitch at first, yeah,
right.
till that other guy was killed and it was right next to his piece and
Yeah,
yeah, she was all over it then.
yeah. Once she saw that there could be money involved with it, she kind of
Yep.
got interested in Anthony's art again. And the kill was really crazy because that scene, he was at her apartment talking business and so forth,
Mhm.
and he basically dared her to say it because
Yeah,
she
she's
was
like, "I need
she
to go to the bathroom," and he's like, "Yeah, I dare
but
you to
before
say it."
that, I think the reason he said it was because she was kind of belittling artists and also
Yeah.
minority artists, because she was basically saying, this is what you people do, that type of thing, whatever. And so he felt disrespected, which he was, and he said to her, to really understand the piece, you have to, go through it and summon him and so forth. And she did it. Now, what was cool about this movie, and not to get into every single detail, but there were some times with the kills, it happened in a way you might expect, and sometimes it happened in a way you totally didn't expect. Like with her,
Mm,
she said it, but it cut away, and you're thinking, oh, she's getting killed off camera, but she didn't. She
yeah,
didn't get killed immediately because she came
right.
back out, and that was when he was staring in the mirror, and he finally saw
Yeah,
Sherman.
his reflection is Candyman.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was really cool because you had this reflection, opposite thing going on where they were both
Mhm.
moving,
Doing the
hands at the
same
same
thing.
time. it
Yep.
was very, very, very cool visually. And then she's like, "Hey, are you all right?" And he kind of wakes up out of the trance, so to speak, and he leaves. And
Mhm.
then you see this. This was the coolest shot in the movie, one of the coolest shots, anyways. The camera was outside of her apartment window, and you can see into her room. And the camera steadily pans back until you start to see the whole building, but you can still see
Mhm.
her. And all of a sudden, she gets lifted up and she gets killed. And the way
Yes,
it was
like
done, it was very,
yeah.
very cool looking. It
She was
really, really
dragged
was.
across the window, yeah, yeah.
Yes, it was pretty
Mhm.
darn. Yeah, it was good. But
It was.
let me jump into the chat and then we'll get to pretty much the finale of this here. Let's see, just to catch up to where you guys are. Strange Monkey was saying, I do believe, okay, I did read that one about the ending being rushed. Paul was saying, I do agree with that. It was going at a solid pace and then it just flew for the last 10 minutes or so. Yeah, yeah. Paul saying it's 100% a sequel, and it's the only sequel I now acknowledge. Yes. Ah. He's saying that kill was awesome as the camera was panning out. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. And we got Sunrise in the chat saying, "What's up? What's going on, man? How you doing?"
Hey.
Yeah, man. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. But yeah, so he's basically being consumed. And again, not to get into every little detail, because we will be doing some more episodes on this, because there's just so much to unpack. But
Mm.
we did get a chance to see also from the trailer that scene with the kids in the bathroom. And I got to
Yes,
admit, man, well, first of all, they're dumb, but we know that. I mean, this happens in horror movies. But, they said,
right?
you said they said Candyman 5 times. You did have one of them that ran out and said, "I'm not
She was
doing
so
this."
smart.
She was the
Yeah.
smartest one, man. But what was
Mhm.
cool was when the kill was happening, you could only see Candyman through the reflection in this compact mirror, and it just looked
Yeah.
so cool. It would listen, and people that have watched us on this channel, they know we've seen a lot of horror movies for a long time over the years. And anytime a horror movie can bring some freshness to the genre,
Mhm.
I always give it credit. And I think it should get credit because there's been so many horror movies made, you know what I'm saying? But this movie really did bring some fresh things. And
Yeah.
that was one of them. Um,
Mhm.
but I was just waiting. Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Well, I was just gonna say with the kills too, you saw a lot of blood, but you didn't
Mhm.
really see the gore like in the first, like when with with the therapist or the doctor, whatever he was.
Oh
Like I
yeah,
always
that was a
that
bad one.
scene, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
So
bad one. Yeah,
yeah, but like it didn't need it because the
right.
way they did it, it was just yeah, the sounds you were hearing and yeah,
Well, the
it
other
was
thing
really good.
that's the other thing that's true too, and some people might forget this, but the original Candyman, it was much more of a psychological horror movie than a traditional slasher. I
Yeah,
mean, he wasn't going out hunting teens that were having sex or smoking dope or
right.
something. You know what I mean?
They
This
summoned
was
him.
yeah, it was a myth, a legend. It was, summoning. There was aspects of romance in it and so forth. So
Mhm.
now the sequels, Farewell to the Flesh and Day of the Dead, the sequels started to turn him more into a traditional slasher, which I think was a mistake. And that's also one of the things that I think was the downfall of the franchise. This movie was smart because it went back to those roots to be more psychological. Take your time, build up the characters. And there was a lot of tension in that for me. Now, one of the things that I had been waiting for is when we were going to go back to see Anne Marie, because we saw her in the trailer and we heard
Yep.
rumors about she's in it and she's Anne Marie McCoy. And that must mean that she's his mother, which, like you said a little bit
She
earlier,
was. Yep.
she was. So he talks to her. And what had happened was she moved away with him from Cabrini
Mm.
Green and raised him on the south side of Chicago and wanted him to live a normal life and basically never know about the legend. And I
Yep.
thought, first of all, Vanessa Williams was so great in this scene. That woman
Mhm.
has not aged
She
in
really hasn't.
30 years.
No.
What's going on?
Right.
25 years, whatever it is. What the hell's going on?
It's good
But anyway,
blood. It's good blood.
but for real though, she had a great scene with Yaya, and it was very
Mhm.
cool. And seeing him, at this point, I was feeling bad for him anyways, but you really feel bad for him at this point,
Yeah, because
because
he didn't know.
he didn't know he was the baby, and he had been learning about the legend and read about the
Yeah,
baby that was
himself.
stolen.
Yes,
Could you
yes.
imagine to find out that you were the baby
No,
taken by the Candyman? I mean, come on.
no, that would
So
be fucking freaky. That would
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah. So
So
I
I
mean,
think she was smart to keep it from him.
oh yeah, absolutely. She said, "I did it to protect you," and then that's when he said, "Well, I
Yeah.
guess he found me." And this is one point I want to make as we start to wrap it up a little bit, but this is probably the biggest point. This movie, some people, they're upset about, well, it's not going to be as good as the first, or it's like a reboot, or blah, 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 and this and that. But what this movie is showing, because Anthony was the one that got away, right? You
Yep.
know, and Helen had thwarted Tony Todd's plans in the original movie. Because what Tony Todd wanted was for all three of them to burn in the fire so that
Be
his
together,
legend.
be one family. Yeah,
Right.
man.
But more importantly, so that his legend would be magnified to an even greater level. Because obviously, you got more people dying in the fire, more people are going to talk about it, especially an innocent baby. She
Right.
saved the baby. That messed up the game plan. What
Hmm.
this movie shows is that it was almost like, fate or whatever, that
Yeah.
eventually, even
It
though
caught
he
up
was
with them.
saved, it caught
Hmm.
up with him. Even though he escaped, it was almost like even after 20 years or whatever it was, more than 20, but it finally caught up to him, and Daniel Robitaille was able to finally get him. Is kind of
Yeah,
what
he
I
did.
took from it. And at the end of the movie, he's pretty much left with nothing. He knows the story. He knows what's going on. He had scared his girlfriend, Brianna, who
Hmm.
was kind of like, "What is all this that's going on?" And he's saying, "Yeah, it's
She didn't
Candyman."
believe him. Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't believe him at all. So the ending of the movie, and I didn't know what to expect, man. I'm not going to lie. But at the end of the movie, he goes back to Cabrini Green, and he goes inside a church.
Mm,
And
that was a
next thing,
crazy scene.
and the next thing you know, man, the big twist, this is all spoilers, guys. The big twist is William Burke, played by the great Coleman Domingo, was
Hmm.
actually orchestrating this transformation of Anthony. He
Hmm.
wanted he wanted the legend to be magnified, and he knew that Anthony was the baby saved all those years before. And he actually had kidnapped, or I should say taken, Brianna to be a witness.
That's
So
from
at
the
the end,
laundromat. Yeah.
right, because she went to the laundromat looking for Anthony.
Yep.
So the end of the movie is basically like a baptism of sorts, because Anthony is almost fully transformed. His face, and for you
Half of it.
guys, it's like it looks almost like a beehive.
Beehive.
The effect looks fantastic,
Yeah.
and it just looks great. But anyways, but
Mm.
Burke saws off Anthony's hand and puts the hook
Yes.
inside, and basically
Yeah.
says, now you're ready. And he calls the cops. This is the other part, that's the social part of it. William calls the cops, and he acts like he's, scared and being victimized. And, he knows that the cops are going to come and shoot first and ask questions later. And he says that once Anthony gets killed, that will start the legend over and become even
Mhm.
greater than what it was before. Ultimately, it's all so that Daniel Robitaille's myth and his legend can be expanded, and that's what he meant by saying Candyman isn't a man, it's the whole beehive. So,
Mhm.
and this is the sad part, guys, to me anyways. Brianna kills Burke out of defense, because she runs out of the church. She gets, untied and runs out of the church. He chases her, and she's able to overtake Burke and kill him. But
Yeah.
when she finds Anthony, he's, kind of all messed up and so forth. And he's lying on the ground, and she's consoling him. And sure enough, you hear the sirens come, and she's trying to get him up so she can get him to the hospital and so forth. And then the police come into the room, and they shoot him dead. Just like
Instantly.
just like Burke predicted. What did you think of that scene, Coriander?
You know, it, it was sad. It was a sad scene because
Hmm.
No one, they just shot, they could have accidentally shot, what was Brianna?
Brianna.
Was that her
Hmm.
name? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it was, and the fact that, she closed her eyes when she heard the shotguns, and then she was like feeling herself, like, holy shit, like,
Yeah. Because she thought
am
she
I
got shot.
shot?
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, wow, yeah, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Little moments like that really illustrate a lot. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to catch up to the chat too, and then we're going to finish this out here. Sunrise was saying, "What happened to the burn Helen in the trailer? No Cassie Kramer. I was upset as I thought that was great casting." Yeah, that was crazy, and we were going to get to that as well because there were some things that were not in the trailer or that we had heard about, and it must have been through the cuts, man. Maybe there's a director cut that they're going to do. I don't know, but hey, Paul was saying Anthony's mom didn't look any older than she did in the original. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Did you notice the hatchet scar on her arm? That was a nice subtle touch. Yes, showing
Yeah.
that when she got cut by Helen by mistake. She didn't mean to.
Right.
Um, Eric saying Vanessa Williams must bathe in virgin blood. She looks unaged, just longer hair. Amazing. Yeah,
It's
man.
those genes too. Good genes,
Yeah,
I tell you.
yeah. Sunrise saying great practical effects with the hand sawn off scene. I agree.
That was crazy.
Strange Monkey saying that twist was so shocking. I did not see that coming. I didn't see that coming either. I mean, seriously.
Mm.
Eric says, honest question. It's been discussed in your video for the original. The social commentary was perfect there. It made a point, but was also subtle. How was it here? Subtle in your face, subtle or in your face? I think. Oh, go ahead, Coriander. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say, I don't think it was in your face. It was almost, it fit the movie. You know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
just enough. At least that's what I thought. I didn't think they
Yeah,
overdid it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, people are going to have different opinions on that. I think that's kind of a hot button conversation, which we will continue in some future episodes. And hopefully we can get, other people with us on that. But I think that it fit the movie because that's what the movie was about.
Mm,
Um, and I think I said this before when we were talking about predictions, if the original Candyman wasn't like it was and this one was like this, then I might say, you guys are going outside of your lane. You know what I'm saying? But this is a
mm,
successor of that original story. And the way that they open up the mythology is to show that Candyman, although Daniel Robitaille was the original Candyman, that his vengeful spirit lived through other victims of unjust violence, whether it was Sherman Fields or now Anthony McCoy. So it's basically showing, Daniel Robitaille living through these other atrocities as we go through time. Back in Daniel Robitaille's time, it was the crime of, a black man loving a white woman. That was the big thing back then. Well, of
yeah.
course, in today's world, a lot of it is obviously the brutality of police. So
Hmm.
I think in
You
that
know,
sense, it worked. You know what I mean? Go
yeah.
ahead, Coriander.
Some people don't like the truth being brought right up front, and you just gotta, deal with, the brutality of what these cops are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact
Mm-hmm.
that they're talking about, oh, we don't like how all these white girls were killed. It's like, how many movies prior to this have it's all been pretty much white chicks getting killed? You know what I mean? So
Horror
the
movies,
fact
yeah.
that right, and the fact that they're talking about that with this, it's like that really disgusts me because it's just like it's been done for decades, the same thing. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that just because, and it's a black person killing, it's like that makes it so taboo. That's bullshit. It's bullshit, you
Well,
know?
in the first
So
movie, Candyman killed white people too. So again,
exactly.
this is okay. Let me just say this, and then we'll this is what I think of it, and we will talk more about this in other episodes. But I mean, the bottom line is that he killed white people in the first movie. So
Right.
but I guess what I'm saying is, I think it's because of the climate of today, as far as it being a
Mhm.
hot button topic. And I think that's why when people look at this movie, they get more sensitive to, as far as saying, oh, well, it's too much in my face about it. It's like, no, it's just the story that's being told. And
Yeah.
like I said, I think it worked. That's just me. Paul was
I
saying the
mean, did they
fact
skip history classes too? It's like, come on.
Paul was saying the fact that he was already down on the floor when they shot him was quite horrific. I agree. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. 100% agree that they used the social commentary to fit the story of the movie, and it never once felt on the nose or forced. Yeah, I mean that's how I looked at it too, man. It was within the story, and and
Mhm.
and and again, I want to make sure I say this. This is not a remake. This is connected to the first movie. Matter of fact, it really leans on the first movie as far as mythology. So
Yeah.
it is a true sequel to that original movie. But
Yep.
let's get to the ending, and I know people are wondering about this. I'm going to throw up a couple of cards. We're not finished with the story, but I just want to also talk about a few things. When we talk about the acting, Coriander, I felt as though the acting was very, very good. Um,
Yeah.
Great moments. I don't think they gave Brianna, the character, a lot to do, but
Mhm.
again, it's a horror movie, and this is a story based on Anthony, and of
Mhm.
course the legend of Candyman. But what they did give her, I think she did a good job.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I thought the acting was great. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't have a problem with any of the people in the film. I thought they
Okay.
all were great. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And also cinematography. I thought the cinematography was fantastic. It really, really
Yeah, it was.
was. Beautiful shots in this movie right from the get go. It was
Yeah.
amazing. It really, really was.
Yep.
Um, was it respectful of the original? Absolutely, 100%. I mean, and we're going to get into the big spoiler. I want to save that for the end because I know everyone who hasn't seen this movie, that's what they want to know. But all I can say is, short of doing certain things, it couldn't have been more respectful to the original. It really,
Right.
really couldn't. Um, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Is it worth watching? I definitely think so.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastically made horror movie. It does have,
It's
some
bringing like
things.
a fresh take on the old, mythology. It's bringing, yeah, I thought it was great how Anthony turned into what he turned into,
And very
you know.
tragic too.
It
And
is
well,
very tragic.
and speaking of which, well, let's get to that too, because once he was shot,
Yep.
Brianna was taken into custody by the cops. That's the other thing too, is like, here she is, and not to sound sexist, because I'm not, but she obviously was not the killer, because a
Mhm.
call was made to the cops saying that someone is, killing or whatever. I can't remember how they worded it, how Burke worded it, but anyways, she's obviously not, you know the bad guy, and
Right.
they take her into custody and act like she's going to be a prisoner, but she's in the cop car, and we see this in the trailer, and the cop basically starts to really be,
A
and
dick.
this happens, basically saying,
Yeah.
well, it looks as though he was the killer we were after, and he
Mhm.
tried to attack us, and that's why we shot him. He said, does that sound like a good story? And of course, she's in shock while she's hearing this.
Mhm.
And he says, well, if that's not the story we're going to use, then we're going to say that you attacked us, and da 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 da,
Yeah.
and then you'll go to jail for the rest of your life. So at that point, she knows that she's screwed, and
Mhm.
that's when she figures, well, the only option I got is to say
Just to
Candyman
prove.
5 times.
Yes.
So she says it 5 times, and sure as shit, Candyman comes back, and
Yeah.
in the full glory, and it is Anthony. He is
Yeah.
Candyman. He's come back. He kills the police officers. It was like four of them or
Mhm.
whatever. They're shooting at him. Nothing's happening because he is the vengeful spirit now.
Mhm.
And she gets the hell out of the car, which was
Mhm.
smart. She gets out of there and she runs and she goes, down the alleyway or whatever. And here we go, man. This was the thing that I wanted to put up, because I know everyone who has not seen this movie, they want to know. And again, this is all spoilers, guys. But the question is,
Hmm.
Tony Todd, Tony Todd, Coriander. Do we see Tony
Yeah.
Todd when she comes up to this place where there's this fence? Anthony reappears in front of her. And actually, and I want to say something before that, before she escapes out of the cop car, and we see this scene in the trailer, but the audio is different. He goes through that old thing that he says, I am the writing on the wall, the whisper
Mhm.
in the hall, da, da, da. And you see in the reflection of the cop car, you see Sherman, you see Anthony, you see William Bell, and you see Tony Todd.
Yep.
And so it's showing that this vengeful spirit is living through these other people that have become victimized. But when she
Mhm.
finally sees him in the alleyway, do you want to say it, Coriander? I'll let you say it.
Yeah, you see, Candyman floats to her, which was pretty damn cool. He had a
Yeah,
shitload of bees around his
all over him.
face. And
Hmm.
then the next thing you do, you see is Tony Todd. You do see him
You
for
do
like two
see him.
seconds. Yeah, for two
Yeah,
seconds.
you do see him. And then he says to her, tell everyone. And
Yep,
and that was pretty much about it. The effect looked really, really well, really good, I should say.
it did.
Um, let me jump into the chat because I want to finish up talking about that part because that's the big thing. Um,
Yeah,
Brian's in the chat saying, "Hey, Night and Coriander, seen the original Candyman? Yeah, man, the
nice.
original is a classic. There's no
Good.
doubt, no doubt
Yep.
about that." Eric saying, "That's why I asked, with it being a hot button. I knew you'd explain it fairly. I've heard both ways." Yeah, I mean, like I said, Eric, there's people who are going to look at it the opposite way of us. I think sometimes it's about sensitivity that people might have. I think sometimes
Mm.
the media influences people's thoughts for good or for bad. My
Yeah,
person,
I mean, can I just say I was
yeah.
blown away by like all the negative reviews that I was seeing about this movie.
Well, there
I
was, but
mm,
there is negative reviews, but there's also a lot of positive reviews too. And the Rotten Tomato score is still at 85 or
yeah.
87%,
From where I
86%.
was looking, it was a few positive from what I saw.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
it's a
again,
shame.
well, this movie is going to have its detractors. Just any
Yeah.
type of movie that's like this that has social commentary, you're going to have
Yeah.
people that are sometimes going to lean in heavy either way.
Yeah.
But for me, I just want to say this to kind of answer Eric a little bit more. To me, again, sometimes the media makes people feel a certain way, one way or the other. All I can say to you is this: being African American, and I wish Killian was here with us, but he hasn't seen it yet. But he could definitely attest because me and him are only a few years apart in age, but we've both had similar experiences, not only growing up where we lived, but even when we were on two different ends of the country. Okay, so this just shows that this is a universal thing. I've experienced a lot of what they've been talking about in this movie and a lot of things that people they might only hear about on the news. And I never really want to make this a forum for that type of thing, but all I can say is that this is real stuff. And to live in a world where you've dealt with it, and sometimes you might walk around and have the possible fear of it. It's kind of a sad thing, you know what I mean?
It is.
So when you have a movie that shows it, and shows it for the truth that it is, I think people that
I
experience that
thought it
have
was great,
and I think people
you
that
know.
experience it or have experienced it, I think it rings true for them. So
Mm,
that's all I can say from my experience, you know what I mean?
mm.
But let me just finish up these last couple of comments here. We got so many studios saying Nia DaCosta cooked this one with love. I agree. I think so. I really do. She did a hell of a job. She really did. Quincy's in the chat. What's up, man? Saying it was great. 9 out of 10. I'm having a private watch party tomorrow for my family, and they made 1.9 million and fresh certified Rotten Tomatoes. To the haters, keep hating film. Going to succeed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see. Quincy was saying I was right about different versions of different Candyman, and I like that Helen story as well. That we didn't see what Helen when she was in a spell. Yes, I agree. Um, Sunrise saying the biggest gripe I've had heard is related to the pacing of the film. Yeah, I think there was some issues with the pacing, and I'm wondering, and we'll be finding that out and talking about it hopefully very, very soon. I think that might be because of some of the cuts that they made, when they did the reshoots and stuff. And Brian talking about the bees. Yeah. Yes. He went through a lot to do those scenes back in the day. Strange
Yeah,
Monkey
I did.
saying, I wasn't too sure about mentioning Tony Todd's involvement in my review, but then I remembered that they do show him in the reflection in the first trailer last year. Yeah, they did. They really, really did. So, hey man, this is spoiler, so I just figured we throw it out there. But Coriander, let's get to that. What did you think about the fact of Tony Todd being right at the end? What did you think?
You know, I enjoyed Sherman as Candyman. I thought
Hmm.
he was creepy. Some of the
Hmm.
scenes, like you mentioned, like when we were talking about it, the elevator. I
Yes.
mean, and that part with the reflection where they were doing the same thing when he was at that reporter's apartment.
Hmm.
I mean, I thought, you know, I was a little bummed, obviously, because come on, Tony Todd, yeah, it's been Candyman forever.
Hmm.
But I kind of like the fact that you only saw him when Anthony became Candyman, because
Hmm.
that's, like you said, who he wanted when he was a
Yeah.
baby. And
Right.
he finally got him. And yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think, the story, it made sense to be something so far removed from the other movies. I mean, you're talking 20 something years since
right.
then. And
Hmm.
so it made sense. But yeah, I was disappointed too. I mean, we did hear rumors about, how much Tony would be in it, and he actually
Yeah.
made it seem as though he'd be in it more. Maybe he was. There were reshoots. There were cuts made to the movie, and you can tell that. And that's
Hopefully,
part.
there's a director's cut that comes out
I hope so
because
too,
I want
because
it.
there were some things that looked like they were missing, and also parts from the trailer that you didn't see in the movie. So maybe he was in it more. I don't know. I'm hoping to find out. Hopefully we will find out soon. But all that being said, um, I I was okay with it. I was a little disappointed. Of course, if they had more
Yeah,
Tony Todd, I would have been happy. But
right.
I also understand that this is a story that has taken place so long after the last time that he portrayed the character. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
it'd be like someone trying to do, well, granted, they might try to do, but you know what I'm saying? When an actor gets to a point where they're so much older, a lot of times the character has to be passed on to someone else. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and this makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, I
Who
mean,
better than the baby he wanted from the
right.
very start? So
And this
yeah.
was a way that they were able to pass it on, but still lean heavily into Tony Todd's Candyman, and still give
Hmm.
him that respect, because the whole movie was really about him as the beginning of it all and how that,
Hmm.
branched on down. So it is what it is. I know some people are going to be so pissed off about it, but look, man, the same thing goes for, like, James Bond. At some point there's going to be a new actor that
Yeah.
plays it, and it's going to
Yep.
keep going. Same thing with Superman. There's going to be a new Superman. Same thing with, this is just what happens with franchises that go on for so long. So you just have
Hmm.
to either accept it or just say, well, it is what it is. Um, as we get out of here, I know, and I keep saying that. Quincy says, deleted scenes in the Blu-ray. I hope we didn't see Anthony screaming or Helen, so I hope it would be deleted scenes. Yeah, I think so. I would think so. Brian saying, would you say it's sort of like Quantum Leap show, kind of with Candyman inhabiting the bodies of the people, if I understand that correctly? Kinda, not exactly like Quantum Leap. I think it's just that Candyman, Daniel Robitaille, who was Tony Todd, um, is a vengeful spirit from the 1890s, and he lives through myth and people that are victimized, um, in a
Tragic,
tragic,
horrible deaths.
yeah,
Yeah.
he basically inhabits them, kind of like an avatar, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Because again, at the
Hmm.
end, you did see that, because Anthony, in the reflection, you saw Anthony. Then you saw Sherman. Then you saw William
Hmm.
Bell. Then you saw Daniel Robitaille. So that's basically what I take out of it. Just seeing the movie once.
Right.
Quincy saying Anthony shouldn't have come back. He was cursed from day one in 1992. Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, if his girlfriend's brother didn't tell him that story, this
Yeah.
probably would have never happened.
Yep. Eric saying Luke Skywalker was only in The Force Awakens at the end for maybe 30 seconds. It was still a cool cameo. So just think of Todd being there as a nice nod to him, especially if it's multiple Candyman. Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. I mean, you're right. That's a great example because in Star Wars, as much as I love Luke Skywalker, I mean, Mark Hamill hadn't, he was 30 years older. He's not going to be the Luke Skywalker I remembered as a kid. He can't, and they could do de-aging and stuff, but that's very expensive too. Just tell a new story and try to give him respect.
Mm-hmm.
Brian saying it's like Harrison Ford, maybe. He's too old to play Indiana Jones, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where it's like, well, it doesn't really make sense for that character, you know? Paul saying, Eric, I actually agree. I love the Todd cameo. I do just wish it was maybe a bit more for the final act. Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I'm going to be interested to see what happened with the cuts. That's all I want to see because there was so many things being said, some things that came true and some things that didn't. But again, there were cuts made to it, reshoots. So I'm going to be interested to find out what those things were. But all in all, it was great to be able to go back to the movie theaters because
Yeah.
we weren't able to do that for well over a year and a half, whatever it
Too
was.
long.
So
Yeah,
too
man.
long. So it was great to be able to actually go and see this movie and kind of report on it for you guys when we did our live reaction. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen that, check it out. But and now to be able to talk about this movie and have the discussions, it's a hot button topic. But just like Eric said, and anyone that's watching this channel, we always do things in a way that's respectful, and we want to try to be as fair as possible. And even if someone has an opinion different than ours, we want to respect it as long as they respect, our opinion or you guys in the chat. So it's always about positivity as much as we can have it. But I'm going to be interested to see how the discussions go. I know that Lee over at Drum Dums, he had talked about how the comment section for his review of Candyman was one of the most toxic comment sections he's ever had.
Ooh.
One of the most toxic comment sections he's ever had.
Hmm.
So it's out there. We'll see. But it was a good movie. No one can deny that they tried. And I think they were very successful in a lot of ways. This was a very cool
Mm-hmm.
movie to watch. So I think that's where I'm gonna leave it. Paul was saying, give me that 4K director's cut, but I really enjoyed this movie, and just talking about it makes me want to go and check it out at the big screen again. Right? I'm serious, man. I would love to go see it again. It was that good to me.
But
Eric
I'm
saying,
not.
Eric saying, I'm just happy for you guys having your first movie back in theaters be one that you both enjoyed. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Brian saying hot button topic might boost ticket sales. It might, or it may, crash it. We'll see. It's doing pretty well, so we'll see. But I think it's a good enough movie that even people that might be sensitive to those types of things, I think, like I said, there's a lot of good in it to enjoy. You know, the pacing of it was the only thing that I saw as a thing that I had an issue with. But it wasn't to the point where it took me out of the movie. Like I didn't like it. I just saw some things and I was like, I bet you there was an extra scene here and there that would have made things a little bit more cohesive. So anyways, guys, that's our spoiler review of Candyman. Let us know in the comment section what you guys think of it, if you've seen it, or any questions you have. If you haven't seen it, please give the video a like. We'd really, really appreciate it. And Quincy was saying as we get out of here, a little rushed. Yeah, there was a little bit of rushing at the end of it. Like I said, I just want to see what was cut out. I really, really do. Brian saying, nice show as always, Knight. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate it. We enjoy having you guys in here with us. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So we will catch you guys later. We'll be doing more coverage of Candyman. So join us for that. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace out, guys. Go see Candyman.
Upchurch.
Peace.